Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome in to the first edition of the NCAA Basketball Hour. I'm your host, the big man on campus. We're back. Another season is here. It's November 5th, 2019, the first day of college basketball for 2019-2020. Welcome in. Thank you for joining me. I'm excited to be here every day, as usual, breaking down the card at 5 Eastern. Definitely might have some changes coming up, might have some added things as well. But for right now, we'll just go through some games, try to find some winners, and I'll let you know what I'm doing this season as we get closer and closer to the conference play and all that kind of thing. Thank you all for checking out the show. I appreciate you. I thank you for joining me. Just kind of want to let you know everything we got going on here. Obviously, we got the show today at 5. We got an NBA show at 6:30, having a great season with the NBA. Ski Prof and I will be live 6:30 on this very channel. So it's going to be a nice, hour or two here of basketball content, 5 to 6, and then 6:30 to 7. Always fun. Make sure you're here every day. Also, 1 o'clock Eastern every day, Donnie and I recapping, getting ready for the day. So a lot of content. This is your place for it. If you're new, you're joining us back. You're coming back after a long hiatus. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't ever miss a show. A lot of people asking me about what I'm doing for the college basketball season. Basically, for the first 2 weeks or so, I'm just kind of letting some things play out. Don't want to jump right in. There's so much action, so much going on that I prefer to at least let a game or two go by. I'm not a big fan of these preseason tournaments, so just kind of getting my feet first. What basically is going to happen is I'm rolling out a website. It's going to be live November 11th, so this coming Monday. And my picks will begin on the 18th of November. That is where the best of the best will go. I do a lot of work for college basketball. It's my wheelhouse. And that's where you're going to be able to get that stuff. As far as how much it's going to cost, it's going to be very cost effective. And all the info will be on the website. So please, no need to contact me on it. It will be out on the 11th, so make sure you check in. But we're here every day. Let's get into the card here. Let me welcome in a couple people. Thanks for joining me. Matt Anderson, Champs here. Isaac, Brandon, Justin, Jose, Rob Taz, Brock Matava. What's happening? SD, Brian DeCourcy, JB, BH, Will Collins, Leland, Blake Walters, Hamza. What's happening? Thanks for watching. Lorenzo, Dunn, Red Girl, Brad. Red Girl, what's up, girl? How are you, love? Brad, Bar, Quinn, Alex Wander, my guy, Jay Patel, Dennis, All Stacks, James Ross, Scott Brooks, Samaj Savarai, Chris Elvidge, I'm sorry. Best Gambler, you've been with me a long time. How are you? Gabe Tadino and Salty Dog. Everybody's in here. Thank you for joining me. All right, let's get into the show. It's time to go. Now, here's what the show is going to be about this year. I'm just going to go through, 10 or so games, and then we will jump into some questions. So feel free to offer up your opinion. If you have a question, I'll try to look back and try to get to it, but just let me do my thing here. Now, I do also want to make it very clear. Everything you hear on this show, it's all up to you. If you want to make the bets, go ahead. If you don't, you don't. I am not personally getting real involved with college basketball until the 18th. I'm really just kind of tiptoeing around. So I'll gladly give you information, try to steer you in the right direction. It's your job to make the decision. All right, let's get into it. First things first, Xavier. Talked about this game. I want to talk about this game. I'm very high on Xavier this year. I've talked ad nauseum about how good I think Xavier can be. First thing you love is consistency and cohesion, continuity, as they say. I talked last year about minutes continuity with a team and how important it is to getting to a Final Four and getting to a high level in the tournament. Tonight begins a long season for Xavier and a season with a lot of excitement and anticipation. This group welcomes back 4 of their 5 starters from last year. Tyreek Jones, Najee Marshall, Paul Scruggs. There's talent everywhere on this team. And, when you have a group of a starting 5 that basically came back to win something, those are kind of teams you want to get involved with. Now, they're welcoming in some new transfers, which I think are really going to help, arguably, and Bryce Moore, who comes over. Bryce Moore is basically a do-it-all three-point shooter. He's a guy that comes over from Western Michigan. He's going to help them considerably offensively because when you look at this team, the makeup is you want to have that guy that come off the bench, give you 9, 12 points a game, and give you that shooting touch. They also welcome in a really valued big in Jason Carter out of Ohio. He's a guy that's going to give you 12, 15 a game, good rebounder, solid defender, can really act to be what Ryan Wellage was last year or, really any kind of lanky big that you need. You need that kind of guy on your team. Tonight they play a team in Jacksonville at home that I'm really concerned about down in the Atlantic Sun. Jacksonville is a team coached by Tony Josic. They're a team that, if you know anything about them, they're very, let's just say, they don't really care much about defense. Let's just say that. Now, coming into this year, there's a lot of question marks, not only about the defense, but how do they score the basketball? Their leading scorer, J.D. Notte, transferred to Arkansas. And then Jace Hogan, their second best player, he actually graduated. So there's really a dearth of talent right now on this team. There's very little of it. And when you're stepping up a competition, I've talked about this before. When you're a team like Jacksonville, or you're a team like, any mid-major or low mid-major, you've got to be able to do something that can throw off your opponent. And that's how you pull an upset. That's how you hang inside the number. I've talked about covering big lines. Here's how you cover them. A, you get to the free throw line frequently, or B, you make threes, none of which I think Jacksonville can do. And I think they're going to have real trouble keeping up with Xavier in this game. There's a lot of excitement around this program, and this is a Jacksonville team that, to be real with you, I've picked near the bottom of this conference. They're just not very good. There's not a lot of talent returning, and the newcomers that are coming in are basically just low-level JUCO players that really aren't going to make much of a difference. I just don't see much of a leap here for Jacksonville. I think the concerns on defense really question mark this game for them. And at 23, I'm willing to lay it. I actually thought this number would be a little bit higher. I think it's a good matchup. I think Xavier comes out here with a lot of tenacity. I think they look to set an example here. And, this is a team that should be able to push 80, 85 points. For me, this kind of seems like an 87-59 type of game, something like that. So that's one I had my eye on, particularly early here. Let's keep it moving. I talked last night about Sanford and Moorhead State. I think this is a fun matchup to watch. I think there's plenty of points in this game. I actually betted at 152. And again, I want to make this clear. All the bets that I've put out and all the games I've moved on, I haven't bet them for very much. They're not full unit plays. I'm really just kind of dipping my toes in here. But I look at this game and I see offense. Sanford is a team that last year was very quick pace-wise, 36 in the country, and they actually welcome back most of their team from last year. Josh Sharkey's back. Josh Sharkey is, to me, a player of the year candidate in this conference. He's surrounded by guards that really make him a better player. I think the big question for Sanford this year is who's going to fill the shoes of Ruben Guerrero. Ruben Guerrero was a big, burly big for them that really was able to man the paint for Sanford. This year, they're not going to necessarily have that, but they do have a guy in Robert Allen that I like. Robert Allen is a double-double machine. He actually had many of them last year, and they actually welcome in a new transfer, Jalen Dupree from Murray State, who I think is going to really give them a nice piece on the wing, a 6'8" guy that can jump with the ball. He's a good kind of just pogo stick type of player, and I think him and Allen are going to be enough down low. Now, for anyone that doesn't know much about Moorhead, the catalyst of Moorhead has always been the fact that last year they were one of the smallest teams in America. In fact, I think they were in the top 8 smallest teams in America. I don't think they had anyone over 6'7". So for Preston Spradlin, it's always been, do we have enough to deal with down low? And I think Dupree and Allen are going to have a field day on the block tonight. The thing with Moorhead, really the goal with them is, we're going to basically say small. We're going to slash. We're going to shoot the basketball. We're going to throw out 3 or 4 guards, and we're going to slash into the basket. Sanford is not a good defensive team, and neither is Moorhead. In fact, both these teams are actually top 100 in pace from last season. So I'd expect a back-and-forth basketball game, and that's really what kind of hurt Sanford. They find themselves a lot of the times in shootouts, and they just they preferably will play that way. So, I think this is kind of an explosive perimeter group from Sanford, and I think it's the same way for Moorhead. I think the only way this game doesn't find its way into the 150s is just a cold shooting night on both sides. But I think we're going to have a pace there that makes some sense here. One other one that I mentioned last night, West Kentucky, 19 I thought was a fair number for this game. West Kentucky to me is one of the most exciting teams in the country coming into this season. There's so much excitement down in Bowling Green with this team because they have a guy in Charles Bassey that's a lottery pick. It's just that simple. Charles Bassey is a freak athlete. He's a freak in the middle, and let alone in this conference, I don't think there's anyone that can stop the guy. Now you're playing a team tonight in Tennessee Tech who just isn't going to be able to guard Bassey. I mean, it's pretty simple. Bassey should have a huge game here. And on the block, he's actually, from what I understand, I heard through some exhibition games that he's down 10 pounds. He looks a little bit better physically. He looks a little bit more svelte. I think Bassey has a big season, and I think tonight it starts. Tennessee Tech is a team that I personally picked last in the Ohio Valley Conference. They just don't have very much. They're a team that basically their sole goal offensively is to shoot the ball a ton. Problem is they don't have a lot of great scorers, and they have a new coach. It's a new system down in Tennessee Tech, if there ever was one. They don't have anyone that can guard Bassey. And, Rick Stansbury doesn't get enough credit for being an elite recruiter, but he is. He's found ways to bring some unlikely people down to West Kentucky. Obviously, if you know anything, Mitchell Robinson was committed to West Kentucky. Yeah, Mitchell Robinson plays for the Knicks. He ended up not going to college, but Stansbury brought him down there. Bassey, he's another great recruit. And you look at just the wealth of riches he has this year. I mean, everywhere you look, this team has offense. I mean, whether it's your organic recruits and like Jordan Rawls and players like that, Josh Hollingsworth, Josh Savage. I mean, there's talent everywhere in this team. And they went out in the transfer market and made a big splash. They brought in Cameron Justice, who can give you 20 a night. He played at IUPUI. He's a great guard. He's just going to offer you scoring. They brought in Connor Williams, a big from Northern Kentucky, played alongside Drew McDonald down there at Northern Kentucky. And they're waiting on a transfer waiver request with Kenny Cooper, who will be a point guard for them. Kenny Cooper actually had some real good success down at that Lipscomb team last year that won a ton of games and got to the NCAA tournament. So there's just a wealth of talent on this West Kentucky team. And you're asking yourself, well, how does it translate tonight? Well, they're at home. I think the season, they're ready to go. They had kind of a wonky season last year, and I think this is a nice start to get out of the gate and win by 25. Tennessee Tech's a bad basketball team, and I look at the matchups here. I just don't see a feasible way to guard Charles Bassey. I think the guards are just too good. And the question for Tennessee Tech is, how do you score? I mean, where's the scoring going to come from? And I don't think this year this is a team in West Kentucky that's going to turn the ball over like they did last year. So there's a couple. Let me get to some other ones here, but before I do that, I want to get to some comments and check in with some of the people here. A lot of people in here already, which is I'm very proud of. It's the first show of the season, so it's nice to see so many people in here. That's the name of the game. If people aren't watching, then what does the show really mean, right? Settle down, Jake Aldman. We don't need your trolling. You like the Hoosiers. Okay, thank you. All right, let's go through some comments here, and then we'll get back to some more previews. Where are we going to start? I sent you a DM about Canelo Alvarez. Yeah. Listen, I'm real busy right now, brother. I'll try to get to it when I can. Tyler Herring, Colton, Austin, Nick. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for checking out the show. G Coop, welcome back. Yeah, North Florida and Florida. I talked about this game earlier, and when you look at lines, occasionally you see things that just don't make a lot of sense. And this was one of them for me. I just don't understand this number, to be real honest with you. I don't understand why we have a number in the 140s. I don't understand we have a number with Florida at 85. Let me tell you a little bit about these teams. Florida is, to me, one of the more interesting teams coming into the season. I took them to win the national title. I have a nice price on them. And, you look at from last year to this year, it's such a different team because I think they're going to maintain the consistency defensively. But I think the goal with this group is to get back to what you're good at, and that's transition, pogo stick offense with great players that can score. They didn't have it last year. Guys like Jalen Hudson, Kavarius Hayes, for whatever reason, they just didn't have, who else did they have? Kayvon Allen. I mean, just a lot of bad shot selection. The offense was really wonky, and you got to get Nembhard out in transition. Scotty Lewis, who's now there, a top 10 recruit. They brought in Kerry Blackshear, who is one of the most coveted transfers in the country. There's just offense all over the court, and some of these lineups that I think Mike White's going to be able to throw out are really going to be tough to deal with. I look at athleticism, and it's all over the court here. From Nembhard to Blackshear to Scotty Lewis to anywhere on this court, there's offense everywhere. And I look at defensively, I think they're going to try to speed the opponent up a little bit. I think, and I mentioned it. I want to say, I think it was Three Man Weave, who I respect considerably in the business. They put out a chart on how often Florida presses. And in 2017, 2018, they were pressing at all. They weren't pressing at all, like 2% of the time. Last year, it was up to 20%. So they were pressing like 10 times the amount they did in the year before. And I think that's something I think they're going to use because they think it's going to be a real bother because they have so many good players in transition. Here's how transition works. It's very simple. It's a lot of missed shots. You get out in transition and you run. Do I think North Florida is going to make a lot of shots tonight? No, but I think they're going to make enough. If you know anything about North Florida, they pride themselves on, they have a lot of good three-point shooters that can bomb away. Now, they're going to shoot 40, 50 times a game. That's, I think, what they're going to do tonight. I think Ryan Driscoll, the plan is clear. Shoot threes and try to do the best you can on defense. They play an odd defense. They basically put all their shooters and guards up towards the three-point line and basically just kind of wall off the paint. And the goal is to basically wall everyone off. But if you do get into the paint, you're going to deal with Wajid Aminu, who's their big, who's seemingly been there for about 10 years. Aminu is the younger brother of Al Farouk Aminu. He's a terrific defender. He's a really good player. But tonight, I think North Florida is just kind of overwhelmed. One thing I like about North Florida is they don't dilly-dally around with the basketball. It's 31st in the country in pace. I'd consider and probably imagine they played similar pace this season. And with Florida's goal of speeding tempo up and going quicker, I'm blown away that this number is where it is. Earlier today, it was 145.5. It's obviously since rebounded and went up into the high 140s, but it's still considerably low. I don't understand why we're only getting a 148.5 here. Now, again, anytime you bet a basketball game, I mean, sometimes it can go the wrong way and weird things will happen. But, in this game, I think that the chemistry is going to be there for a higher scoring basketball game. I just don't understand. I mean, you look at really up and down this roster for North Florida, whether it's Garrett Sams, Ivan, Gandiarosa, Aminu even. They're shooters everywhere. Gavin Escobar. I mean, this team can shoot the basketball. And I think that's how you can stay in a game. So, I'll bank on a higher scoring game here. I think Florida can touch mid-90s. Wouldn't surprise me if they got 100 here. I mean, you look at last year's team, who was horrific offensively. They scored 98 against North Florida. I mean, there's going to be plenty of points for Florida. I don't understand this team total only being 85. I think they at least touch 90. And that's I think that's a conservative amount. I think they push 100 here. All right, let's get back to some comments here, and then we'll get into a few more games. Thank you, KD. Appreciate your candor. Thanks, Mike Butler. Harlem J, my man, what's happening? Jewish sex learners back. What's happening? Brian Rowe, Taylor Herring. Can you break down the UMass Lowell game? Yeah, I don't think there's a ton to break down, but I'll tell you this. I'm not running to the window to lay this kind of number with UMass. I mean, this UMass team stinks. I mean, coming into the season, my big question with the Minutemen is, who the hell scores on this team? I mean, your catalyst for years has been Lawan Pipkins, but, Lawan's gone. I mean, he ain't coming back. Carl Pierre, he's gone as well. Where the hell's the scoring come from UMass this year? Because I look up and down this roster, and I don't see any. I mean, seriously. I mean, what the hell is going on with UMass? I think you can make the case they're the worst team in this conference. Carl Pierre's back. I'm thinking of Curtis Cobb. He's gone. So you look up and down this roster, right? Carl Pierre is the only returning player that averaged double digits last year. They didn't make any transfer moves, so they didn't bring in anybody. This team stinks. It's just that simple. I think they're going to be a lot like St. Louis last year. The problem with St. Louis last year is, they at least could defend. UMass can't do that. And UMass Lowell is an interesting team. Pat Duquette's a good coach. They have some guys that can score the basketball on that team. And they're going to run tempo. They're going to go quick. They're going to try to score as much as they can. UMass Lowell is a kind of an interesting team. The America East is very top-heavy. No one's beaten Vermont, but I think UMass Lowell could be interesting. They have scores up and down this roster, and they're kind of a different team in a conference that's generally pretty low tempo, play a lot of defense, grind it out. Teams like Stony Brook and Hartford and Albany. But UMass Lowell, whether it's Christian Lutauti, Obadiah Noel, Josh Gantz, there's a lot of scorers on this team. And I think they can make it difficult. It wouldn't surprise you if they pull off an upset here. UMass shouldn't be laying points to anybody. Sorry. And if they are, it should be like 1 or 2, maybe 3. 6? Yeah, give me a break. All right. Melvin, Ali, Mustafa. What was your pick from your tweet? It was the North Florida over. Thoughts on Wisconsin St. Mary's? Yeah, look, I'm not going to call people out. It's not really my thing anymore. I used to do it, but I don't really do it anymore. But Paul LaDuca's comments on the St. Mary's were laughable. Listen, no offense, Paul, but you should be talking about St. Mary's. Sorry. Paul's a nice guy, it seems like, and I respect his horse racing ability. He's a terrific horse handicapper, but, come on, Paul. You couldn't have been – you weren't serious with that comment, were you? Paul actually said St. Mary's is a top 5 team. Listen, I like St. Mary's. I think Jordan Ford is going to be a terrific player. He's just a guy that never gets tired. He's so good. He's so good with the basketball, and he fits that system terrifically. And I like Malik Fitz a lot. Some of these guys coming in, you have to like. I think everyone kind of complements each other, and I love Randy Bennett, but come on, Paul. They're not even the best team in the conference. Top 5. That had to have been a joke. Seriously. But I think this is a tough game for St. Mary's tonight. It doesn't really suit them. St. Mary's, I think, for as much as they play slow, I don't think they want another team that plays slow. I just don't think you're going to have a ton of possessions in this game. And could St. Mary's pull away? Yeah, but I think they have a question mark inside. Who plays the big for them? Aaron Menzies is a transfer, but he's hurt. I don't know much he plays tonight. And to beat Wisconsin, I think you got to kind of push the tempo. St. Mary's ain't going to do that. I think this is a game played in the 50s, or let alone maybe high 50s, 60s. I think Trice, Pritzl, Trice, Davidson, and King are enough. I think they can handle Ford. Because one thing about Greg Gard's teams, and even back to Bo Ryan, it's generally been next man up. And look, I know they could be wonky without Ethan Happ, but Ethan Happ's long gone. They've had a whole offseason to prepare without Ethan Happ. I'm just not real sure that this game suits, St. Mary's. I think teams are really similar. And I think St. Mary's is a better team, but I think Wisconsin's better than people think. People aren't giving Wisconsin, I think, enough credit. First of all, they're much better athletes for the most part. I mean, they're in the Big Ten. It's kind of a step up for St. Mary's. 4.5, it's low. I mean, you're starting to get a better number if you bet it earlier, and people are starting to buy into what I said earlier. I would need probably 5 to get involved, but I think 4.5 is some value here. Will I be betting it? Probably not, but to think St. Mary's is going to come in here and roll is a little bit moronic, personally. All right. Kentucky's run is over, I think. I wouldn't say it's over. I think it's questioned. I think tonight is going to be tough against a team in Michigan State's is just so good. I mean, Michigan State is in they're experienced. What's always the question with Kentucky? Consistency, cohesion. Is it going to be necessarily there early? I don't think. If Nick Richards doesn't play, I don't think they have any chance in this game. Because Adrian Montgomery has not looked good in preseason. Is Nate Sestina ready to handle that? I'm not sure. I like their guards. I mean, Quickly and Higgins are terrific. Maxi's terrific. And it's going to be a duel against Cassius Winston, but I think they'll just wear Kentucky down. And I got to wonder about the cohesion. Cal's teams always struggle early on with consistency, as they say. And if Richards plays, I like them a little bit more here, but I think you really have to look at if he's playing or not. Because I think if he doesn't, I think Michigan State will have their way, and I think they'll just wear Kentucky down and end up pulling away and winning by 73-63 or something like that. This is a terrific team, Michigan State, man. They are so loaded, really everywhere. They have the best player in the country. They have a guy in Izzo who we all know what Tom Izzo's thing is he just wins with whoever he has. It's just pretty simple. And they're the consensus team coming into the season. I mean, everywhere you look, this team is stacked. Keep in mind, they welcome in Joey Hauser, who was a terrific shooter last year. They're going to get him eligible. But Aaron Henry and Thomas Kilthier and Xavier Tillman and Kyle Ahrens and Gabe Brown. They also welcome in Rocket Watts, who is a really high-level guard, a freshman. I think he's going to have a kind of an important role tonight in this game. He's got to play like the top recruit that he is, Mark Watts. So, hopefully he can be that. You have an X factor in Henry. You'd love Langford tonight, but Langford isn't played for so long that you've kind of moved on, I guess, and you're just welcome when he comes back. But listen, I mean, this is a tough game. I mean, especially to play Michigan State right out of the gate, a young Kentucky team who generally has cohesion issues early on. I have concerns. Frank Mannion, welcome in. Thank you for checking out the show. I know you're always an avid listener. Someone's asking about Providence and Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart, I think, has a pretty decent season this year in the NEC. I don't think they're better than their competitor there in LIU Brooklyn, but I definitely think they have a pretty solid season. Anthony Latina is a pretty good coach, and I think in that conference, I think they'll be fine. But tonight, you're stepping up against a Providence team that I've had a lot of good things to say about. This is a Providence team that is pretty stacked from an offensive perspective, which isn't normal. Generally, they struggle to find a capable scoring options, does that Cooley. But, I mean, I thought they got one of the better transfers in Lawan Pipkins. Pipkins, I saw when he was at UMass, he's just a scorer, man. He does everything. He gets in the lane. He creates for his teammates. He can shoot the ball from long range. And he's really a great complement to Dukes, Reeves, Diallo, Nate Watson, Malik White, Emmett Holt. I mean, this is a good basketball team, and they're really well coached. I mean, one thing we know about Ed Cooley is he's done a lot with less, and they're one of the better defensive teams in this conference. In fact, if you ask me about who would I take defensively over everyone in this country or in this conference, I mean, it's definitely Providence. I mean, defensively, they're really good. They just needed someone to kind of seize the reins offensively and get them some buckets. Pipkins is that kind of guy. So do I think they can roll by 18.5 tonight against Sacred Heart? Yeah. I mean, defensively, they're going to make it really difficult for Sacred Heart. And this, step-up game is really tough. Will Beard win back-to-back? Well, I mean, he didn't win back-to-back. He didn't win the national title. So, do you mean the conference? No. Kansas will win the conference. I think that's what you mean here. Big man, you're a college basketball wizard. Well, thank you, Harlem J. I appreciate that. I try as hard as I can. Troy McCabe is saying Richards is playing tonight. Okay. I mean, is he going to play a major role in the game? That's kind of my concerns. Am I high on the Sanford over? I mean, no, I'm not really high on anything. I mean, it's the first day of the season, but I think it makes sense. Would I bet it at 155? I don't know. You're starting to lose some value there. I mean, I like 152 a little bit more. Right Angle Sports with the Duke game. How do you know that? Okay. All right. Comments here. We went over a lot of games. A couple other ones I wanted to look at. I talked earlier about a Power 5 team against SWAC teams. And I think that's something, I think from a really rudimentary basis, you can win money with. It's really simple. Fading MEAC teams and SWAC teams when they play a Power 5 team or a high-level mid-major. So Gonzaga, any high-level mid-major. It's really simple. So tonight, here's one that makes sense. Iowa State is hosting Mississippi Valley State. I'm asked all the time who I think the worst team in the country is, and I got to tell you, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a team worse than Mississippi Valley. I think from a total standpoint, there's nothing about them that's exciting. Nothing. The team stinks. It's in a terrible recruiting area. It's a terrible job, frankly. And Jeff Goodman did a really interesting piece on the SWAC conference and how difficult it is of a job. And you could argue that Mississippi Valley State is the worst job in the country for a coach. There's very little to get excited about with it. But they're able to land a coach, and I know a lot of people remember this guy if you were born in the 90s or 80s or even before that. Lindsey Hunter's the coach down at Mississippi Valley State. Yes, that Lindsey Hunter, the guy that played for the Detroit Pistons alongside Joe Dumars, I believe, as far as I remember. I might be a little green there, but Lindsey Hunter is a basketball mind. It's surprising that he took this job just because I guess he just wanted to get his feet wet with coaching. I don't think he's going to have a ton of success. And he was actually able to keep his son down there with him, Caleb Hunter, who is probably the only glistening piece of this team. But they got to travel up to Ames and take on an Iowa State team that really should be able to have their way with them here. Mississippi Valley's on another level. They're the worst team in the country. This seems to me like a 102-51 type of game. I think Iowa State rolls here, but I really just wanted to kind of highlight the system. And, if you're asking me, okay, tell me what games fit that system tonight, the games that fit that system tonight would be, let me pull them up here. Iowa State, Mississippi Valley State, Memphis, South Carolina State, Gonzaga, Alabama State, USC, Florida A&M. Those are kind of ones that would fit that system. So SWAC, MEAC teams that are facing Power 5 groups. So, again, I know people don't consider Gonzaga Power 5, but I do because of the size of their program. So there's an idea for you if you want to get kind of basic and rudimentary. All right. Big man, you're killing it right now. Your knowledge is unparalleled. Don't you think the fade Juwan Howard train is a little out of control? They're now down to 16. Yeah, I think the big question with Michigan and why, you look at certain other teams, Texas Tech, the numbers coming down. Certain new teams, new cores are not being trusted. And I get that. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, but Appalachian State is not a good basketball team, and Michigan is just going to shut them down defensively. Do I believe in the hype of Juwan Howard? Frankly, yeah, I do. I think he's going to be a great coach there. I think he's perfect for that job, and he's got a lot of great assistants around him, namely Howard Isley and Phil Martelli. So do I buy the train moving it down? No, not particularly. Do I understand it? Yes. Thank you, Mike Butler. Should I take Florida over 149 or 80? Yeah, I mean, look, early in the season, guys, lines move. Yeah, all those look fine. I would bet that one up to like 151 personally. Louisville, Miami. I'm gonna take this one off, to be honest. I have a Louisville future, and it's not that I don't believe in this team, which I do. If I had to play it, I'd take Louisville. But I got to tell you, I like Miami. I think this team's going to be much improved this year. I like Chris Likes a lot. I think the big thing for Miami is, can you improve defensively? Because let's just be real. I mean, they were horrific last year defensively, which is not normal for Jim Larrañaga teams. Generally, they're very good defensively, and they have guards that can score. Lonnie Walker, Bruce Brown. Players like that. But they got away from that last year, and there was really a lot of Chris Likes and everybody else. This year, they welcome in some really helpful transfers. Cameron McGusty, who was at Oklahoma, Keith Stone, who was at Florida. I think Louisville's interesting because they're really cohesive. They're a lot like Michigan State or Xavier, and they should be fine in this game. But I think Miami's pretty solid. I'm kind of excited to see how they look. Have they made a move defensively? And look, let's be honest, guys. I mean, this is a conference game, which is, you definitely think, more important. Would I lay it with Louisville? It's not near the top of my list, put it that way. I think this is a game to really watch and just kind of see what you get. I know you liked Siena in the MAAC. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think Jalen Pickett is fascinating. I think he's a terrific player for that group. Do I have any thoughts on how American looks this year? Yeah, I think American is a team that, for me, I think is kind of a sleeper. I think Brennan's team's really interesting. I think they have two guys in Nelson and Gasparini who are really good, and I think they can find ways to, kind of keep them in games. Defensively, they're always pretty solid. I just think they're one of those typical teams down in the Patriot League. They grind you out defensively, low possessions. They're going to be able to shoot the ball particularly well. They're efficient with certain lineups, and they're going to kind of put the ball in the hands of Nelson. Do I trust Siena? No, not really. I think American's kind of interesting. I like them in this conference. St. Mary's is the play. Okay. I mean, I'm not really sure how Wisconsin is a down year. Maybe you can explain to us about your comment there. I don't agree at all. My thoughts on Texas Tech. Yeah, they were one that I had interest in. I kind of avoided after a while just because, it's a big number to lay, and it's a team that's completely new for the most part. So, like Javius Ramsey and all these guys are new. The only returners you have are Davide Moretti and a few others. Defensively, they're going to be unbelievable. Are they must-see television defensively? I don't know, maybe not early. It's just kind of a big number to lay. But listen, Texas Tech had no trouble laying this kind of number last year. Eastern Illinois stinks. So would I be grabbing the points? No. And I think expectations are high down there. But I just want to see kind of how they look right away. But they shouldn't have any trouble with Eastern Illinois here. All right. Bruce Shad is in here. Bruce Shad. Wow. Haven't seen Bruce Shad in a while. Glad he's doing well. Hey, Bruce Shad, I heard you got banned from Gabe's show. What happened? What happened there? Why don't you update us on what happened there? Would you send him Domino's and he didn't want it? What went on there? Thank you, Foost. Salso, what's happening? Sports Keg, thank you for watching. What's happening? Any initial thoughts on Temple this season? Yeah, I think they struggled tonight. Al Bunky saying Jeff Nader is the Mississippi Valley state of the sports betting industry. Well, hey, Al, thanks for watching, bro. Adding to the listeners today, I appreciate you. It's kind of you just to check in and say hello. Listen, I don't care if you're negative or positive anymore. As long as you listen, I don't care. Okay, Temple. And then we're going to look to wrap it up. I got to, I want to keep these shows around 45 minutes. I'll do a couple more questions here in a second. My thoughts on Temple. I love their guard play. I think Quentin Rose is terrific. I love Nate Pierre-Louis. His brother, Josh Pierre-Louis, is there now. The question is about Aaron McKee. I mean, what does this team look like? He was kind of coy in his description of how they're going to defend this year. I'm going to guess they're going to play a lot quicker, try to avoid the half court because they don't have bigs that can really guard the rim. It's a tough game tonight against Drexel. I'm not running to the window to bet to bet Temple as a double-digit favorite. They struggled in this role last year. They have a new coach, and Drexel has really good guard play. Kirk Lee is a really good player for Zach Spiker, who loves to get tempo going. So, I'm not going to be down there tonight. But I'm looking forward to the season. It's nice to have Fran Dunphy out of here. Do you think Kansas bigs will be too much for a young Duke front line? Of course I do. Azubuike is going to have a big night. I think, Vernon Carey is interesting, and I like Delorier and those guys, but Jack White, I mean, come on. Against Azubuike, give me a break. Listen, I like Duke. They're talented. I think they're one of the most talented teams in the country, arguably the most talented. But as Trey Jones made the next move, I'll be interested to see his development as the season kind of starts here. Kansas is legit, man. They are really good. And as a weekend, could be the best player in the country. He's a big season. Do you still live in your mom's basement? Shit, man. I wish I still live with my parents, man. I haven't lived with my parents since I was 18, and I think it's one of the large regrets of my life, not living there longer. No, I'll be real honest with you. I love my family, love my parents, but they'll tell you, and I'll tell you, us together at this point in our lives, for a few hours, it's nice, but I don't think I could live with my mother and father. In fact, when I go to the shore and they're there, it's all well and good, but I prefer to be alone. That's one thing about me. I don't like being around people. I like being in my own place and having my own life. And, visits are cool, but I do wish though I would have lived there a little bit longer when I was a kid though. I was quick to move out, which is something that I was big on. I wouldn't want to keep living with my parents that long. All right. A lot of comments here. I can't get to everyone. I just try to get to as many as I can. What's up, Johnny Kicknuts? Bruce Chad saying Gabe sees his database as a threat. Okay. Wonder if he agrees with that. Do I have any Flyers to take to win the NCAA tournament? Yeah, Louisville, Gonzaga, UNC, Duke, Xavier. I like Florida. What's up, John? John Young. Any opinion on William and Mary High Point? Both teams have some question marks on who scores. Both teams are going to have issues. William and Mary is a new coach. Yale, Stony Brook, I have no interest. Miaoni's gone for Yale. And Stony Brook lost their best player as well. Akwasi Yaboa, he's gone also. So JB's asking about Chicago State. Chicago State is right there with Mississippi Valley State. There's no play. We're not doing that, at least early in the season. We're just kind of spitballing. I would say if I had to play tonight, it would be Florida, North Florida over. Al Bunky, hey, Jeff, no disrespect. I'm here to fade you. I know where the money is. 0-9 start last year to start the season. I expect the same. Well, that's your prerogative. I mean, how did I do the rest of the season? But none of you people ever mentioned that. Listen, Al, I am glad you're listening. Thank you for checking out the show. You're only adding to my listener base, so I'm fine with it. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Franklin. I'm hoping you're getting some money with the NBA plays. It's great. So yeah, have everyone a great day. Thank you for joining the show. It's always fun to talk college basketball and educate my audience. I'll be back at 6:30 with Ski Profit. We'll be talking NBA. We'll give out our NBA plays for tonight and try to find some value on that card. So make sure you join us tonight at 6:30. So we'll have about a half hour until then, 45 minutes. Have a great day. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah, and we'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Have a great night. Enjoy college basketball. We'll see you at 6:30 for the NBA show.